right, here we are. Interview Friday. So glad to be here. Love Fridays. Fridays are a time on Lunch Therapy where we interview really interesting people, and today is no exception, of course. For all of you actors out there, this is one that you're not going to want to miss, because we are going to demystify what happens on a television set. A lot of times as actors, we spend so much time getting the job, working on our craft, and then we show up to a television set and we're like, what is going on here? It's like an army. And it's just moving super fast, and there's all these different people, and we're like, wow, nobody told me, exactly what's going on here. And so today we're gonna tell you what's going on. And then also for those of you that are maybe aspiring television directors, you're like, how do people get these jobs as television directors? What's the path? Is there some kind of an apprenticeship or something? We're going to find out that too today from our guest, David McWhirter, who is a director of many, many shows on television. But of course, first, we are going to breathe. So let's get into the show. Hey Guy Fly, how's your eye? I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 We are here for the breathing. For those of you who are here just for the breathing, like Ganell, we're going to do some here. We're going to do some serious breathing. Next week, by the way, I want to mention on Monday, we've got something really interesting happening. The frontman from Gas Huffer, Matt Wright, is going to be joining me because we want to investigate sound baths. Yeah, sound baths. So, you would not think that this frontman of a punk rock band would be, into sound baths, but he's really into them. And we are going to have Healing Vibrations, which is a company that does sound baths online. We're going to have Drew Griffin and Travis Schumacher, and they're going to tell us about these sound baths. We're going to participate in some of them. So look forward to Monday, noon on Monday. In through the nose, out through the toes. That's our first breath. For those of you that like to breathe, let it go. I see Veronique is here. Welcome. I'd love to hear more about how it's going with the wolves. She is a wolf activist. Todd says he's not an actor, but he plays one in real life. So that definitely counts. Of course, we're all actors and we're all television watchers, so this is a very pertinent show. In through the nose, out through the toes. There's David. He's here in the chat room, and he's going to be here on screen soon. Let it go. Vernus likes to take air baths. Elephants like to take sand baths, too. I've tried a few sand baths. In through the nose, out through the toes. Let it go. I'm so delighted to have you meet David here, because he is he's got such great energy, and he's one of these people that the kind of people that we here at Lunch Therapy want to surround ourselves with. People that are kind of in the mind of like lifting one another up, and also keeping a super positive attitude and being happy. So we're going to get into that discussion really soon here. He is a director of such shows as The Closer, All American, Flash, Supergirl, just a ton of stuff. Quantico, The Rookie, Blindspot, it just goes on and on and on. So here we go. Let's get into this thing, our discussion with David McWhirter. Today on Interview Friday, we're here with David McWhirter, who is this is cool because you're a CalArts grad like me.
Yep.
MFA from CalArts.
Yep.
You grew up around Pittsburgh, which all my relatives are from Pittsburgh.
Right on.
And also, you're a television director, which I'm just so interested in what that's about and what that experience is. So I'm just so glad to have you here, David.
Great to be here, Joel. I watched the show and checked it out. It's a really great show with really awesome guests. So I hope I measure up.
I'm sure you will. So tell me, I want to start with the Pittsburgh thing really quick. What was it like for you growing up? What was your childhood like?
I had a great childhood, thanks. I actually grew up, I have to just mention the town. It's Greenville. About an hour and a half north. I usually just say Pittsburgh because Greenville's a small town. Yeah. But I'm still close with a lot of people back there, and they're wonderful. And we've never lost touch. Like, I'm friends with guys I've known and gals I've known since we were 6. Yeah. So the shorthand is great. Like, when I go home, we just fall right back into our old conversations, and cool. It's very positive. But anyway, so I grew up. My dad was a doctor. My mom was raising us at home when Dad was doing his medical work, and I wanted to be a doctor. You know, I played a lot of sports. I loved movies, and my parents got me into that. So I think that's where it started for me. They loved movies, so they would turn me on to, kind of off the beaten path movies like HUD or The Long Hot Summer or 12 O'Clock High. World War II film, and things like that. And then I just lived a very normal life. I had a ton of friends in a small town with no worries. And anyway, I was going to be a doctor and got all the way into college, and I realized my junior year that it was not my passion, and it was like and so first thing I did was. I thought about it and I said, I want to go into communications, film, television, because I just loved it. But I wasn't sure if I could make a living at it. But I thought, well, you know what? I'd rather be poor and happy, than be a doctor somewhere and not really be happy. So I called my parents. We were very close. And I lost them at 18, just so you know. But they're very much a part of my life. Yep, thanks. Yeah. And anyway, they said, no problem, buddy. You can do whatever you want. They said, just get good grades.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my childhood, but it was just literally like a Spielberg movie.
Now, did you know anybody in the film or television industry? Any actors, any directors, anybody?
The only person I knew is my parents had a place out in Palm Springs for a while, and Arthur Newman, who is Paul Newman's brother, I think he's passed, but he was terrific, sweet guy. And he was very nice to me and just told me about different things and told me about the assistant director's training program. Yeah. In fact, he wrote me a letter of recommendation for that. Really? Which I think helped me. I don't know how much it helped, but I think it helped me get in. Yeah. Once I switched majors, I went to CalArts. And after that, I was trying to break into business, and I didn't have a way in, and I remember it was stressful. And a gal I was dating at the time said, hey, I'm taking the trainee test. The what? The DJ trainee test. And
I hear it's really hard.
It is very hard. Yeah. When I took it, it's changed a little bit. When I took it, it was like 5 hours, the first part. There's several levels to it. It was 1,200 applicants.
Oh my God.
And it's like, and it's like 5 hours of like questions, boat A, boat B, boat C, reading comprehension, some stuff to do with film, but it was sort of just general knowledge or intellect, I guess. Anyway.
What does that mean? Boat A, boat B?
Oh, like they'd be like, boat A is traveling at 5 miles an hour to a destination. Boat B is at 15 miles an hour, but it leaves a half hour after boat A.
Like mathematical questions.
Oh my God, yeah.
Really?
So it was crazy. And
maybe some of your training up until your junior year helped you with that. I mean, you must have gotten through like the science weed out class and some of these, doctor weed out classes.
It totally did. Yeah. It totally did. And I actually didn't mention, but I went to boarding school too. I went to prep school. Wow. My parents just wanted me to have the best education they could think of. My dad suggested, and I was like, sure, what the hell is prep school? So I went 4 years in Connecticut to Choate. And very proud of that, and really great experience there. Was hard. But one thing I'm so happy about moving through life, I'm still in touch with the Choate friends, but even probably more important to me, my childhood friends just stayed friends with me. They didn't care. Like I came home and they're like, come to our parties. We want to see you.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so
cool. So I didn't really have a lot of contacts, but the fact that I got into the training program was amazing. I'm actually now on the board for it, which is really fun for me. So looking at new applicants, you know,
it seems like a really good kind of apprenticeship route that, you know, in other, that's one of the things that's difficult for the entertainment industry, I think. Is a lot of us don't know how to like apprentice. Like, how can you apprentice being an actor? I don't, you know, it's really, and you don't feel like you're on a path. But I think that this thing, I talked to Bruce Cohen on my show, Fat Free Film, years ago, and he also did the trainee program. And he said that just kind of put him on a path. Is that the way
Totally.
you feel?
100%. It was a lifeline for me.
It's like 2 years. Is that how long it is?
Mine was like 3 years.
3 years.
Wow. You have to get 400 days, and it ended up being probably 2.5 to 3 by the time I got out. I was one of the last people to get placed just by chance. By the way, they cut it down from 1,200 to 18 of us. That's how. It was like, so a certain amount of luck involved to get in.
Yeah.
But the first show I did then was Star Trek Next Generation.
Oh my God, that's so.
So I was so psyched, and the first
thing.
Just
like beside yourself.
Oh, I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. And Joel, I was on a walkie, and ever since I was a kid, I loved walkies. But I would get them from Sears and JCPenney.
Yeah.
They worked for about 15 feet. So now I'm on this incredible walkie, and like the 8-year-old version of myself be like, "This is the coolest walkie ever,
greatest thing ever."
Yeah, and the first day, the key second, who's a sweetheart, I just reached out to her recently. Adele Simmons was very kind, tough, but fair and all anchored with love. She goes, "Okay, Brent Spiner, you know who he is?" Like, yeah, he plays Dad. He's coming in. You need to put him in makeup, just like that. Just go. So I'm like, okay. So there, he's walking in. And I'm like a hummingbird. I have pretty good energy anyway, but I was like buzzing around Brent, and he's just walking straight. And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "You're the new trainee." I go, "Yeah, that's right." You know, he knew exactly.
Really?
So I'm buzzing around him. Yes. And I'm buzzing around.
Energy.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Great. Hey, listen, I need you." He goes, "You need me to go to makeup." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." Because he knew, right? And anyway, he was super kind. They all were nice to me on that show, but he was the first one I met, and I think I was probably closer to him just by that, you know. But they were all terrific. So that was my first show, and it was like drinking from a fire hose. You know, I was so overwhelmed sometimes, but you know, Adele would be like, "Look, you had a good day, a couple of mistakes here. Try not to make the same mistakes twice." And then eventually I got my footing, and then when I got out, I had some good contacts. You know, I also did Dennis the Menace. I should mention that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, cool. It was a big deal to me. It was my first movie.
And that was a movie. So you did TV and film.
Yes, I got lucky enough to get placed on that movie, and my parents loved Walter Matthau. And I loved Walter, and he's still one of my favorites.
Oh, me too.
He was so hilarious. You know, he'd be like, he likes to gamble. Bad News Bears.
We grew up on that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like so great. Yeah.
So anyway, and that was a treat because I got to bring my parents to set, and they met Walter.
Fun.
He was really nice to them, and I felt like, oh my God, I've arrived. You know, here I am. And then when I got out, I worked my way up as an AD. I was firsting and happily first ADing.
Can you break that down for us? Because and you know, a lot of us are actors. Even like we get hired on these things and we don't know what's going on, you know, and you just jump in.
Yes.
And so there's the AD, the second AD, the second, and you know, it's like, can you break that down for us?
Sure. The DJ trainee is sort of like a glorified PA, but you're basically a PA. Sometimes you get additional instruction on the weekends. And because you have to test in, usually trainees are pretty good, but you know, not all trainees. There's a lot of PAs that are awesome, you know. And so anyway, that's just the bottom of the ladder, and you're basically just
assistant.
And you're just facilitating everything happening. Do lockups, which is keep it quiet when people are rolling. Get actors to makeup, get them to set. Deliver lunches. I delivered so many lunches on Star Trek.
Did you?
Oh my God, it was like all of hair, all of makeup, all of wardrobe, plus the cast. So I was probably doing 25 to 30 lunches a day.
Wow.
And you know, that was my thing, and I just was like, be good at it. So I work to just deliver the perfect lunch, you know.
Do you think that that's your one of your superpowers, is that you have a great attitude?
I think so. You know, I mean, know your blessings. I have been blessed for sure. I also work really hard. You know, that has never changed. As a director, I work really hard. And I'm constantly learning. I'm open to that, you know. Every day on a set, I'll be like, oh, that's interesting. You know, because every situation is slightly different. You know, talking about the actors and stuff, I recommend just, you know, people just do films, even if it's like a short film or something with your friends, because it's so different than theater, and it's different than class. When you're in there and you have to hit the mark and have a cup of coffee and take the sip at the right time, you know, presumably, and all those pressures, plus all the stuff that happens, you know, the mic comes in, you know, the cameras, it's really, it can throw you, and meanwhile, you're supposed to have a meaningful performance, you know, but I think the more you get used to it, you know, so anyway, that's just what I would say. You know, there isn't an apprentice program for actors. I wish there was. You could shadow, you know, I think post-COVID, I've had people shadow me before. And I'm, you know, it's great.
Really?
And I shadowed. I shadowed.
Shadowing is basically you follow somebody around all day.
Yeah, you just kind of see what they do, and you're sort of a part of it. You're back at the video village.
So useful. You know, one of the first things I did when I came to Hollywood is I got a stand-in job. On a movie. I was really hiding from the haircut people. I was an extra. I was hiding from them because I didn't want to cut my hair for just this one particular extra role. And somebody grabbed me and was like, hey, do you ever stand in? And I was like, no. And they were like, come over here. I think you could stand in. So I ended up standing in on a show. It's called Norma Jean and Marilyn, and Josh Charles. I was like a stand-in. But I learned so much from that.
Yes.
You know, and if anybody could have, all actors could have that kind of an experience about how to hit your mark and all that stuff.
100%. One of the shows that I direct is All American, and one of the stand-ins, Brooklyn, plays a recurring character as a nurse on the show. She got pumped up. She's good. She did great. She's better than good. Cool. And that's happened on other shows. You know, I worked on The Flash, and some of those people have bumped up the stand-in. So that's another great thing about it is if it's a small role and they need somebody, you know what you're doing, and 9 times out of 10, they're actors. If not 99 times out of 100, they're actors. Okay,
I want to go back really quickly and just go through the different people. So there's the PA, then there's the second. Is that
second is the next role, and that's sort of an intermediary between the PAs and the key second.
Okay.
And the difference is the second is typically on set. Like they're sort of the first AD's right-hand person on set. The key second does all the call sheets and all the scheduling, and it's so complex. I think in the old days, they used to be on set. I like to think that when I was a key, I was on set, but more often than not, you're off in the trailers and you're meeting with the best boy electric. How many people are you going to have on Saturday? You're with the UPM in the office. You know, a little of that's changed with COVID.
Yeah.
But that's basically the key second is sort of like Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Key's huge.
Yeah.
But I like the second actually more because I got to hang out on set and set background, you know, set the background actors.
They wrangle the background actors and stuff?
Yes. Yeah. And you'll have typically a PA or a trainee helping you set, but the second's usually in charge of that. Wow. And it's a fun creative outlet. I loved it because I could be creative. And, you know, and I always tell the background when I work, I still do it as a director. You're huge to the story, you know, background actors, if a big scene with a lot of people, huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Watching a film.
So it's important. And I tell them like what you're doing is important and, you know, make it, you know, if you have 40 people, you can't give them all motivation. You give them the broad strokes, but I'm like, find your own personal motivation. Don't just cross the room. Figure in your mind you're going to go talk to Billy because you got to remind him about the call that's going to happen in an hour. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Just make it specific.
Give them intention.
And
because if you see an extra who's just wandering around or whatever, it throws you. Also, you know, you're telling a story, and a lot of times it's not about the extras. So do you ever have that where you're shooting a scene and some extra is like making a whole meal out of the thing?
Yeah. And, you know, and I always tell them, I'm like, look, I love the energy. I love the passion. I'll take that over, you know, someone just standing there like a zombie. Yeah. You know, I used to joke when I was AD and I'd say, look, you know what they do to zombies? You got a headshot. So You guys, I don't want you guys to get shot, so do not go zombie. Just
now, were you ever an actor? Because it sounds like you like to work with actors.
I do like to work with actors. You know, it's interesting. So when I went to Cal Arts, very quickly on, I was an MFA student, and I was taking the production classes. I was in the production, program. Yeah. But very quickly, Joel, I realized that I was more interested in the arc of the characters than where the lights go and where the camera is, because it feels like when you break it down, starts with script.
Yeah.
And then the next level are the actors, right?
Yeah.
And so because Cal Arts is so loose, God bless Cal Arts.
Yeah.
They were like, I said, you think I could join with some of the undergrad actors in their classes? And they were like, just ask the instructors. So BJ Dodge.
Oh, I love BJ Dodge.
BJ's a sweetheart. And she was like, no problem. And Lou Florimonte.
I was going to ask you about Lou Florimonte.
Yes.
He was great as well. What about Alexander McKendrick? Was he there when you were there?
Sandy was there when I was there. He was a character. He was real, very much
like
character.
History, Hollywood history.
He is so smart.
Man in the white suit.
Yes.
Sweet smell of success.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Lady Killers.
Yeah, the Lady Killers. Oh.
So brilliant.
He got blacklisted during the McCarthy era. I think that's why he started teaching.
I think so too. But he was a real gem, and he was really like the anchor for that program.
Yeah.
And he was just terrific. And I get limited access to him, but I did get access to him. I would, work my way to get to have a meeting with him and show him what I had. But no, he was, master of everything. And he was like, subtlety is the enemy. Don't try to be, we're all trying to be artsy and subtle.
Yeah.
He was like, student films come in 3 sizes, long, too long, and much too long.
That's so true.
Right?
Some of the short films I saw when I was at Cal Arts, I'm like, what is the plot?
Yeah, really.
I see the shock value, but I'm not sure what the plot is. Did you make short films while you were there?
I did. I did a few short films in preparing for this talking to you. I looked them up. I did one. It's a crazy name. It's called Instruments of Desire, which is a classic example of how can I make this a cool title? It makes no sense. But anyway, it was and briefly, it was the Argonne Force in France in World War I, and I had a really great team, like amazing production design. We built a hut with trees, burnt out trees that looked sort of like that scene with a little bit of smoke. Anyway, 2 American soldiers come across a German soldier, and he's yelling at them something. They get into a fight, and the one soldier kills him. And then they go over to a teletype, telegraph machine, and there's a message there, is where the guy was when they came in. Well, the one American who shot the German says, "Oh my God, the war's over. There's been a peace treaty." Mm-hmm. And then they have this moment of jubilation. And then all of a sudden the other soldier says, "Wait a second, you understand German?" He said, "That's what that guy was saying when we came in."
Oh.
So anyway, that was the moment. That was that.
Well, that sounds like a story.
Thanks. Yeah, I was pretty happy with it.
Do you still have that film?
I do. I have it. I literally just transferred it from I think from half-inch to DVD. I haven't looked at it yet. I literally just got it back a couple of weeks ago. It's probably going to be a little muddy, but I was happy.
Yeah.
And then I did my thesis film was called The Darkness. It made a little more sense. Again, briefly, I like kids and I like old people. Mm-hmm. They're just interesting ends of life. So a little boy and his grandfather are hunting. The little boy shoots a deer, but he's scared because it's starting to get dark. He doesn't want to track the deer. So when the grandfather says, "Did you hit it?" the little boy covers the blood with it. He steps over the blood and he says, "No, I missed." But then the grandfather sees the blood and he's like, you can't leave that poor animal out there wounded. You have to track it. That's what we do. Hmm. So then he goes off and he gets lost and he ends up having to get rescued, and he goes into the hospital with hypothermia. It develops into a dementia, and all of a sudden he starts really deteriorating. And the kid, of course, is heartbroken.
Yeah.
And so the kid being a kid, I guess what I thought I would do, is you try to break him out.
Yeah.
So the kid broke him out of the hospital.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were locked up, but he snuck him out. They rode away on the back of a garbage truck. Somehow I managed to finagle a garbage truck.
Wow.
And have these two actors sitting on the back as it drives away slowly. It was, now it kind of is like, okay, David. But anyway, they go fishing. They try, the little boy has the plan. They're just going to recreate what they used to do. Mm-hmm. But it's not working. The grandfather is not well, and he almost drowns. And they're sitting on the bank of the water, and he has pills with him. The little boy has the pills. He took the pills when he got him out, and he gives him a pill, and then the grandfather puts his hand back out for more pills.
Oh, wow.
And the kid doesn't understand it first, and then he realizes. So it's pretty sad, but at the end, he gives him an overdose, effectively, and the grandfather takes them.
Wow.
And he's slowly going to sleep, and the kid's sitting next to him on the side of the water.
That sounds like a good film.
Thanks. I think it was okay, decent.
Yeah. Do you have that one too?
I have that one too, yeah. I transferred that. I don't know how it looks. It was crazy, they're like trying to get a deer.
Yeah.
I'll just tell you a quick deer story. So we had reindeer because we couldn't get a regular deer. So I had reindeer. We had two of them. I was smart enough to get a backup. Well, they started fighting.
Reindeer? Where'd you get that? No wonder you got into this DGA program.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I had it as a backup. So anyway, but in the middle of on the route up, they started bucking each other. So the one antler came off. So I had one reindeer with only one antler.
Oh no.
So anyway, we get the second deer and put him out there, and he's supposed to be eating, and then he looks up just before the kid fires his gun, and obviously it was all just shot separately, but so we would put food down for the deer to be eating, and then I'd be like, hey, and the deer would look up, and I'd be like, great, but we were out of focus, we didn't get it quite. Okay, take two. So by the end of it, long story short, by the end, the deer knew that there was no threat. So I'm banging on pots, and deer just keeps his head down and just keeps eating. He's not eating. He's
like, oh, that's that noisy guy over there.
Exactly, it's that stupid noise. I'm having lunch. Anyway, it was really the gentleman that played the older character, and the kid, and he had a little sister, and there was a mom. So it was fairly ambitious, but had a lot of great help. Everyone helps everybody at Cal Arts.
Yeah.
And
that's what I liked about that school was there's just so much going on. I took piano lessons.
Is that right?
You can do all kinds of things. Of course, the piano lessons were way too high level for me. The woman was like some master pianist, teaching me. But it was just great. It was a great experience. Mm-hmm. I wanted to jump ahead to your episode of The Closer. With Kira Sedgwick that she won the Emmy for. I watched that, and I just wanted to. I think it's a good example of a nice piece with actors, and I wanted to ask you about your experience on that.
Sure, Maternal Instincts.
Yeah, Maternal Instincts was the episode.
Yeah. So that was my first episode ever, and
that was your first. Was it your first television directing experience?
Yeah.
Whoa. And it's amazing that they would give, they must have had a lot of trust in you to give you that episode because it was a nuanced episode.
They did. Kira had a lot to do with it. Also, Mike Robin and James Duff, who were two of the big producers, and Rick Wallace. Yeah. The trifecta were all great to me. Rick, by the way, is a Cal Arts grad also.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And anyway, what happened was, I had talked to Mike Robin and said, hey, I'd love to direct.
Yeah.
Because something had happened on a pilot where the guy said, come do an episode. And I was like, what? He's like, come do an episode. So I mentioned to Mike, he's like, cool, I'm game. James was too, just trying to find it, make it happen. One day, Kira, there was a guy on set who was director that used to be an AD. And she said, I said, oh, that guy's one of my heroes, because he used to be an AD. And she looked at him and she looked at me, Joel, right away. And she said, when are you going to do one of these? And
really?
Yeah, like that. And I was like, and I hadn't said anything to her. And I was like, oh, Kira, that's so nice of you to say that. She goes, I think you'd be great. And I was like, oh my God. She goes, is there somebody I could call? She was an exec producer at this point. It was season 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, Jesus, that's amazing. And she was she stayed on it. she made kind of a deal about it. I would see her and she'd be like, it's going to happen. I'd be like,
wow.
Whoa, like, I don't want you, don't worry about it. Like, if it happens, it happens. She goes, no, I really want it to happen, David. Yeah. So anyway, the script I got, I think I just happened to get the script. I'm sure she put a good word in. Leo Jeter, Geter, wrote the script. It's a terrific script.
It's a great script. One of the things I love about that is the characters are so nuanced. And I'm sure that character that she plays is very nuanced, but there are situations where they're not, you don't know what's right and what's wrong in the situation. And they're dealing with that as human beings.
Yes.
All of them. There's that scene at the end where there's her husband and her niece and the boy has died. And you don't really, she's like, I don't know. I had the choice of whether to find out who killed him or notify you so you could see him be there when he dies. And I decided to find out who killed him.
Yes.
And you don't know whether that was, she doesn't know whether that's the
She doesn't know. No, you're right.
And the husband and all that. Everybody is so engaged in that scene. It's a beautiful thing. It's probably maybe one of the things that got her the Emmy besides when he dies.
Yes. She, by the way, that the niece in the story is her daughter, Sosie.
That's her daughter. Yeah.
That's her daughter.
Oh my God.
Who was great to work with. I think I was one of the first people to get to direct Sosie.
Sosie
That
Bacon.
was a treat. Yeah. Sosie's now an actor on her own.
Wow.
And
she does a great job, and you can see why.
She does. Oh. And anyway, I mean, Kira's instincts are money, but she also wants to be directed because she's classically trained. And it was great for me because she wasn't like, look, you got the job, sit in that chair and I got it. She wants the direction. So we worked on it together. I always say as a director, I know when to stay out of the way. It's not all about giving notes. Sometimes it's just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with Kira, I just get out of the way because she's awesome. We might try, typically on coverage, I'll like to do variations. If we have one, if we're going to do another take, let's try something slightly different, within the same world, but just a little bit different. I find when you get into post, it helps because the overall shape of it evolves a little bit when you're cutting it. It's been my experience.
Can you tell me a little bit about the path when you're a TV director, like when you get the job, how you get the job? Do you interview for the job usually? And then what happens after that? How far out do you start? I know it's kind of a big question, but I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, no, sure. So for me, I got that episode, and then since it went well and they submitted it, I was thrilled when she won.
Yeah.
I got some more episodes. The next one I just want to mention because it's really also another one of my favorite scenes is Last Rites. Last Rites. And her mom dies in that episode. And it is Kira is.
I saw a clip from it, I think, on your reel.
It's on my reel, yeah. Anyway, it's
emotional. I saw she just Yeah, she went.
And we talked about that too. Like, as I recall, it was Kira's idea that she turns away to the door, and then she has the recognition when she's turned, and you literally see physically her body changes a little bit.
Yeah.
It's anyway, amazing. And
we call that back acting.
Back acting. That's right. It was so good. And John Tenney, who plays her husband, is wonderful. They had great chemistry together. Yeah. And Franny was her mom, and just and you think the dad's going to die. It's a great misdirect because the dad's sick.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to necessarily give it away, but anyway, that was just an important one too. Wow. But anyway, so then I was just getting them because I was on the show and I would AD like in between. Yeah. And I remember one time the crew said to me, they said, is it weird to direct like Monday and AD Tuesday? And I said, no, I'm happy to be working. Yeah. I didn't want to miss out on my work. So I was like, I want to make it easy. So I said, look, if I'll prep while I'm ADing, I'll post while I'm ADing. I just need those 8 days to shoot, please. And they did. They were really nice to me. And then I remember James Duff, who he was the creator. Yeah. When I was trying to, break out, he said, "Look, David, it's gonna happen. I believe in you." He said, "And I'm gonna keep hiring you on The Closer and Major Crimes, so you keep your head above water." and then it'll take off. And
it is an elite group. The people that direct television, it is a small group, and it's something. It's a skill that is so you have so many different things that you have to do, and you have to know exactly what to do when you just from the get-go. Because
answer a lot of questions.
Yeah,
you do. You have to make a lot of quick decisions. I will say that, and let me get back to your other question. Sorry, I can ramble a little bit.
It's okay. No, it's good.
Okay, so about 8 episodes in, I wanted to try to get a manager and agent, and I literally went to my friends who were my bosses, and I said to Mike, I don't know what to get, and Mike said, well, you know what? I mostly deal with managers when I hire directors. So I would say get a manager. Don't worry about an agent right now. Okay, got it. Okay. So then Rick Wallace knew a manager named Ross Feynman, who's still my manager. And I have 2 now. Ross and Dana Jackson are a team, but they're great. And anyway, I met with Ross and we just had drinks. And, I'm a blue collar background guy. Mm-hmm. He is. His dad worked a door business in the Valley. And I just liked him. He was just down to earth and a straight shooter, which he is to this day. And anyway, we have a handshake agreement, which I also love, right? So many lawyers and suing and contracts. We just have a handshake, 10%. And it's just smooth. And
I like what you said about he's a blue collar guy, because I think a lot of times I said this. I used to work at Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, and I was saying that they had a kind of a blue collar attitude about their work, and I think a lot of if you have that kind of like craftsman, blue collar kind of attitude, it's just so much better. Makes for a better environment.
It is, and he's just a straight shooter. Like he's talked to friends of mine that are trying to get represented or whatever, and he always just. He's just a straight shooter, and Dana's the same way. Dana Jackson is my other manager, and she's great. We're friends. I skied with her. She's a boarder. I'm a skier.
Me too.
And nice. And we like next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, we're gonna have a happy hour Zoom, which we do from time to time, and it's part business and part just talking to each other about life. When my mom passed, she was the first one that passed. They called me like every day for about 2 weeks, and I kept getting these calls from my manager, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
And they're like, we just want to check, make sure you're okay.
Oh, that's great.
That's all it was. It wasn't anything with business. It was literally just checking on me, and it meant a lot. Yeah. So I'm blessed to have them. But anyway, so now with them, they sort of get me meetings. I've had, a bunch of general meetings with the studio, and they're always super warm. I have to say, Joel, like I go into these meetings and I was so nervous initially, and they're so friendly. They're like, we love your work. Oh, that episode was so good. And they just make you feel so great. And
do you
very,
usually
very nice.
Pitch your idea for the script? Like, do they give you the script and you say, this is how I see it? Or how does it usually work?
No, that's just, the general is really just to meet me. They know I've done some episodes. They've watched them, and they just want to meet me for then future work. Like, And so I did a bunch of those. I probably did 15 or 20 general spread over a couple of years, and then in the midst of that, things started popping. The first, again, to go back to the Bacons and the Sedgwicks. So James Duff got married to his partner, Philip Keane, and it was an awesome wedding. And at the wedding, Kevin is there. And I had AD'd for Kevin, so I got to know him a little bit. He's a really funny guy, totally down to earth.
He seems totally.
They're hilarious. Both him and Kira are funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, I go, hey, I hope I'm not overstepping. This is at the wedding, like while we're walking around. I said, do you think it would be okay to try to get a meeting or something on the following?
Yeah.
And Kevin was like, no, it's not overstepping. He goes, you want to talk to Marcos Siega, Kos? And I'm like, got it, Marcos. Okay. And he goes, anyway, so that was that. So nothing happened for a while, but that's okay, right? And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call one day, and it's Warner Brothers saying, are you available to direct an episode of the following?
Wow,
and
like
of course,
that?
Yeah, and my joke is that I went like, let me just check. But I didn't, because I was like, totally. Before she finished the sentence, I was like, yes. Anyway, so I get there, and I shadowed Marcos Kos on the following. And I remember, like, it was so funny. So I meet him, and he's like, what episode are you doing again? I'm like, I'm 10. He goes, 10. He goes, oh, that's a big one. I'm like, okay. So he was supposed to do it, but somehow it like mixed around. And I literally said to him, I said, look, why don't you do 10? Because I'm like, I'll do the head cold episode, right? I don't care. And so he goes, no, I want you to do it. So it was the episode where the other lead is executed.
Oh my God.
Huge episode.
Oh my God.
So, but they had confidence in me, and I also had great support, great tone meeting. I'm a big fan of tone meetings. That's where the showrunner will tell you, the showrunner, the big boss of it, or the creator will tell you what they're looking for scene to scene, tonally with the cast.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. So anyway, I had a lot of prep on it, but I remember it was so funny. It was funny, Joel, because first of all, when I saw Kevin, I was like, thanks, man. And Kevin doesn't really like, he just it's cool, it's all good. Like, he doesn't want you to be like, yeah. But I was pretty, you
were that grateful.
I was really
but
grateful.
It was cool because I think this is a lesson, is you at least made it known that that's what you wanted. And
it's
sometimes
huge.
In life we don't do that, and nobody knows what you want, or nobody thinks of it.
That's a really great point, Joel. Literally me talking to my bosses is what got the little thing started on the closer. So, and so anyway, so Kevin was great, also really nice to work with, easy to direct. And, but so it was funny because I'm doing literally the death scene. Alexi Hawley, who is the showrunner on The Rookie, he's also a great guy. He wrote the script. Yeah. So Alexi had to leave to go back to the writer's room, and they were going to send someone else out that I knew, but they couldn't send him. Mm-hmm. So then Marco said, look, you're, and Alexi said, I like your decisions. You got it. You don't need to have anyone with you, which I liked, but we didn't have him. That's fine. So then I'm doing the death scene, and the guy dies. Yeah. Cut. And I'm like, all right. And it's a big setup because it's a execution chamber. So I give a couple of notes to talk to the actor, and Kevin's in there, and talk to the crew. And then I run to the next stage while they're setting up. Yeah. And Marcos is over there having a conversation about his next episode. So they're in prep mode. He's just talking to a couple of the keys. And I sort of I come into the room, and he's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, do you need to see this? Because I'm thinking someone else besides me.
Big deal.
Exactly. So I go, do you need to see this? And he goes, no, I need you to direct it. Wow. And I go, okay, got it. And I ran over, and it was such a wonderful thing from him of empowerment, and just say, I trust you, man. Go do your thing. Huge. So anyway, that was a big deal. It was the first show I had directed that I hadn't been an AD on. Yeah. And that's sort of,
that's what I wanted to ask you. Yes. So, okay, we watch like a series, and it seems pretty cohesive from one to the next. Like, you don't go, oh, this looks like this person directed it, and this one looks like David McWhirter directed it. So there's like a cohesiveness. Is that the showrunner that makes that like that? And what's it like to walk into a show where you're like, wow, this is new, like we actors always do, walk in and be like, what's going on here?
It is. It's different. It is. It's the showrunner, and also the DP is huge. DPs in television are a huge linchpin.
And that's the director of photography.
That's the director of photography. In this case, it was David Tutman, who was on the following. Then David moved over to Blindspot, and David started directing as well. But I remember I was always grateful to David. First day on the following, first scene, I rehearsed Kevin and his girlfriend and the storyline. Yeah. Okay, and I'm like, okay, crew has it. And I'm just like, and then David walks over, Tutman walks over, and he goes, I was thinking you do like a nice wide master here and put B camera slide in the side. I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Because I was a little overwhelmed for a minute, and so David saw that, and exactly. And here we go. And I have to say, over the years, a guy named Andrew Priestley, who was the A operator, took over as the DP on Blindspot, which was one of my next stops. That was a great show, and Andrew's a great DP also. And I'm a collaboration guy, Joel. So I'll collaborate with the actors. I'll be like, that felt pretty what do you want to try this? And the same thing with shots. I'll have an idea of a shot, but I love the collaboration.
I think it's the best way to be, right? I mean, even Stanley Kubrick said that he would ask the opinion of the guy who was making the coffee. You know what I mean? Because sometimes that was where the best idea was.
That's right. It doesn't matter who has it. I like to say that directing is having good ideas and recognizing good ideas.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's so true.
But it's also fun, when a day goes well or an episode comes out well, it's a big team effort. It's like, 80 people have to do their job well.
Don't you feel like being involved in sports helps that out?
100%. I was a football, basketball player and lacrosse. And it's absolutely... a team sport. In fact, I have a friend who's an AD, and he said when he interviews people, one of the things he'll ask them is if they played team sports in high school or what they played in high school. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, but if they say they played basketball versus they say they played tennis, they might be better working with groups of people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Gary Marshall used to have a pickup basketball game that he used to
Is that right?
And he said that you could learn a lot about people from how they played basketball.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Do they are they good passers?
Are they yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Assists.
Are they going for the layup all the time or whatever,
Yeah.
Are they trying to be the superstar? Yeah, so there's a lot, and I think that that's true. I want to move towards what you're doing now, which one of the things that you've been doing lately is the Flash and these and the CW shows, and there's a lot of action. There's a lot of I find it overwhelming because the storylines can go anywhere, like this multiverse thing where you've got different Earths.
Yes.
How is that jumping into an environment like that, and what's it like working on those shows?
It's all great. It starts from the top down. Eric Wallace is the showrunner on The Flash. Yeah. It used to be Todd Helbing, who's doing Superman and Lois. And they were sort of a team, the two of them, and then it became Eric when Todd went to do that one, and they're great.
How did you end up in that area? Because it seems like people kind of rehire you, and certain people. What's the segue that got you on that?
Let's see. Well, just to back up. So following, Marcos went over to Blindspot. I got on to Blindspot. Yeah. And to just to delve quickly into the different style. So Blindspot did a lot of handheld. I hadn't really been on a handheld show. Everything. I mean, the following was a little bit too, but Blindspot was like big time handheld. So all the energy of that. And so I had to learn that the operators are so good at it and such good storytellers. And to this day, when I direct, I tell the operators, look, I have ideas for shots, but if you see something, go for it, rack focus to the foreground. And if we miss, we'll get it on take 2 or something. But so when I got into Blindspot, it was a different rhythm. And Marcos explained that to me. And then I got on set and saw it. And, they were also really nice people. Jamie Alexander.
Is that a lot to handle with all these people with handhelds and things like that? Is that a lot to kind of, because as a director, you're kind of figuring out what the audience is going to focus on.
It is.
So if you've got a lot of things going on, it must be trying to choreograph a dance or something. It
is. What we end up doing is we'll do a conventional pass. And then when we get to, and we'll do, let's say a wide pass, then get into tighter. Maybe we're doing cowboy, which is, for people who don't know, that's basically how they would frame cowboys because they have their pistols on. Yeah. So you don't want to,
That's good.
Don't
I love
cut
all
the
lingo.
Off.
All the film and television lingo.
Cowboy. So then when we get into coverage, what we call coverage, which is the sort of medium and tight shots. Yeah. In that, we would do a pass of tighter, whip panning pass. Yeah. And so by now, the operators really know the dialogue and they know the story. And so they'll go to you, Joel, when you have something, when you reach for the paper. Yeah. This guy PRA, who was sort of their main operator, this guy Pete, they're all great. Romer. Anyway, they would dive to the paper and come back up, or they'd say to me, do you want me to stay up top or go for the dive? And I'd say, on take 2, go for the paper. And I'm telling you, they're like, like having 3 starting pitches. We do a lot of 3 cameras on Blindspot. And it was amazing. And I know that in my edit, I'm going to use a lot of that material because to me, there's a natural energy to that as opposed to just sitting on it. But then other times you don't want you just want to sit on, depending on the scene. Well, it's all driven by the story.
In the show, The Rookie, that seems like they're using body cams a lot too.
They use a lot of body cams.
And are they actual body cams or what's going on there?
That is Alexi Hawley's idea. As he created the show. And I thought it was really smart because it tells the story. It's such a big part of police storytelling for real police that it became ours. And I'm trying to remember, I think that what we do is we have sort of a real kind of body cam. And then sometimes we'll add something like we'll do a GoPro, if we need to. Yeah. But Nathan Fillion, who's the star there, he's great. They're all really nice. Yeah. And they're so good about with the gun, holding the gun like where they don't lock it.
Oh yeah. Aware of that.
Oh, totally aware. If they're drinking coffee, I mean, they just make it work.
Great.
Yeah, and so that I thought that was really smart, and also all the stuff in the cars. Yeah. Everything in the car. that's a big part of the storyline. In fact, the episode I did last year, I did 2 of them. And the second one, I think, Alexi said, I want you to use a lot of the car footage because there's going to be clues for the following episode, which was the finale. I did the penultimate for the second one I did. And that was a 2-parter. And some of the storytelling and some of the secrets that you discover are from cameras in the car.
No way.
So we want it to be part of the language. So it doesn't come out of left field, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really smart.
It all comes together. I mean, it's really, really pretty incredible. It's like an army.
It is pretty incredible. And I'm telling you, like it, you know, I do my part. Yeah. You know, I do my part, but I know when to listen. Yeah. I remember the first episode of Supergirl I did was called The Martian Chronicles. And it was really pretty fun episode. Again, a great script. It was a bit of The Thing. It had an aspect of The Thing in it. And we leaned into that. I leaned into that because I love it. Yeah. And I remember after I finished that, Larry Tang, who's a big time producer, director, I think he's doing Nancy Drew, I believe. But he said to me at the last day, we wrapped, we're having a beer in the truck. Can't do that anymore, but we were. Yeah. And he goes, you know what I like about you? I'm like, what? He goes, you own up to what you don't know. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. He goes, yeah. He goes, we get people in here.
So important.
And they're like, oh, we know how to do this VFX. Yeah. He goes, then we go down this rabbit hole and they don't know. Yeah. And I said right from the get-go, that was more VFX on Supergirl than I'd ever done as an AD. Yeah. So I just said, and the guy, the VFX guys are great there. This guy, Armin Kevorkian, is the number one, is the main boss. And then they all have supervisors. There's a guy named Mark Luigi on The Flash. And that's who I work with now. But they're all great. And I'm spacing out on the guy.
Well, you're doing really well with names.
Thank you. I try.
Are you a name person? Do you
I am.
Know everybody's name? It's so important.
I do. I really work at that. That's something that's important to me. And people have commented to me about it. I mean, they've told me that like directors that come in and like they don't know the camera operators' names after shooting an episode.
That's true. I bet that's true.
And I'm just like, and I think I'm okay at it. It's weird now, Joel, because with the masks, I had to go back to square one. Like go back to All American.
Disguised.
Yeah, and they got a baseball cap. And what's crazy now is I kind of can recognize them through the mask. It's really weird how we adapt. Yeah. And I also find that when you're trying and they know I'm trying, when I screw it up, they're understanding. Yeah. You know, they're like, like 2 set dressers on All American look like each other to me. Yeah. So I'm like, anyway, but I work on names. It just kind of, I think that's how I was raised on. So my parents. Yeah. And I have to say. It gets
harder and harder, you know, as you go
harder
along.
and harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on the set, I want to ask you about this. Yeah. On the set, I mean, it's very different now because there's so many special effects that are going on. Do they have special effects people on the set that are setting the green screens and doing the digitizing? What is that all about? And then how is it to work with that and understand how that's going to work and integrate it into the work that you're doing?
Yeah, no, great question. It's definitely evolved. I remember when it was blue screen. Yeah. Right. I think when we were at Cal Arts, and then it became green screen. Yeah. And just so people know, like, so blue, they do blue screen because like anything that's blue is going to be a problem. This sure would be a problem against blue screen. Yep. But I guess initially they felt like there weren't that many blues, you know, in like costumes and. Which
is surprising. You'd think there'd be a lot. Yeah.
I think there'd be a lot. And maybe it's skin tones too. That might have been part of it. So then they went to green screen, and now we'll do green sometimes, but literally we have a VFX supervisor on set. Well, first of all, we prep together and we have very detailed meetings. Oh my God, the budget on Flash, might be $500,000 of VFX on one episode. Wow. And sometimes we're bringing it down from $1 million down to 500.
Because they've got the whole characters that are like that shark monster, gorilla, and
gorilla god, and King Shark. Yeah. So we go through it in detail, and the guys that run it from VFX are amazing. The point guy, there's a couple of them. There's like Jeff on Flash, and Carrie and Josh Spivak, I believe. And it's funny because they want you like day 1 or day 2 of prep to have an idea of how many shots for a scene, right? And they know it's tricky. So like initially, and you're looking at this document, it looks like you read another language. It's like 085, like, what is that? That's not a scene. Well, that's the shot number and blah, blah, blah. And you're like trying to read this document and it's tiny little writing because there's so much information. But what's great is like Josh, for example, would be like, he goes, how many, someone say, how many shots you think to bring the shark in? And I'm like, and Josh will say, I was thinking it's probably going to be about 5 or 6. So I budgeted you 6. You want to start there? And I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. And then we sort of do this horse trading as we go. Like I always tease Mark Luigi, who's great on Flash. When I'm shooting, like stay right on my hip because I don't try to pretend like I know it. Yeah. So I'll say, Mark, and then what'll happen is, let's just say there was a VFX with Flash zooping out, but we didn't zoop him out. I know in my cut, it's just going to push in on him, no zoop. Yeah. So now I got money in the bank. So now I want to take that zoop and I want to horse trade. And I have one more lightning bolt over there. And Mark would be like, yeah, that'll work.
It's like you're speaking a different language. There's a zoom, and then there's a lightning bolt, exactly. And I got a horse trade.
Got a horse trade. And what's funny is the great thing with VFX, I'll say, is that you don't spend it at all until you're in post. Yeah. Right? Until you actually do it, there's no money spent. So, for example, in All American...
But do you ever get in post and like, oh, no, we didn't get that shot or anything? I mean, you must have planned out.
I'm pretty planned out. I do my own... I was watching the Mark Andrews, and I'm sure his storyboards are things you could publish. My storyboards are embarrassing, but they work for me. And then we'll hire a guy up there that'll do proper storyboards, just so people sort of know the overall. But I do my own, especially in a complex sequence.
Have you always done that? Did you do it with your original films at Cal? I think it's so important because otherwise you don't know if you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to do like an over and then a tighter. Now I don't really do that because I know what that is. Yeah. But still, it's funny on the whole, like the line.
Oh, yeah, like crossing line. Could you explain that, crossing line?
Yes, sure. Basically, if two people, it's easiest with two. If two people are talking to each other, then depending on what side of, like you and me, if you're on the right or the left, on this side, let's say you're looking right to left to me on a profile, and then I would be looking left to right to you. And so that's all fine. So when you do the closer angles, you stay on that side of the line. You
stay on that one side of the two people.
Now, if you jump to the other side, now we flipped. But you know what's interesting, Joel, is over time, audiences are so savvy.
They don't care.
They don't care. And it actually adds a natural energy. So when I went to Blindspot, I was struck by how much they would jump the line, and Tutman or Andrew Creasy would say like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's cool.
Really?
And it's great. And it does work when you watch it later. And now when I'm watching shows, I'll be like, they jump the line. Yeah. They jump the line.
I was watching just yesterday and I saw somebody jump the line. And it's maybe disorienting to the audience, and maybe that's something you want.
That's right. I think all those decisions are better if it's not an accident, but it's thought out. Yeah. So for example, you and I are talking and then you say something really dramatic, like, there's something behind you. Yeah. Then that's when we might jump the line to the other side. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's a big ship. So that's a great place for it.
Okay.
In my own world, I try to make it a reason. Yeah. Sometimes if someone's leaning up against a wall. Yeah. And I remember like when I went to Blindspot, like we got to get over his left shoulder. And they're like, no, don't do that. Just go over his right shoulder. I'm like, but he goes, and what's funny, Joel, when you do it, it doesn't matter. And it just means on the other side, you just have to shoot over both shoulders of the other person. You have to, we call it a split looks. The looks are split.
Do you ever shoot with a digital background? Like now on Mandalorian, apparently they've got like a full on screen and it moves with the actor and the camera and all that stuff. I guess they use the Unreal Engine and all this stuff. Do you ever shoot with any of that yet?
I haven't yet. A friend of mine is the first AD over there, Kim Richards.
Oh my God, who
was a trainee. She was my trainee her first days on set, and I'm a big fan, and she's great. Yeah. But yeah, she was telling me a little bit about it. It's crazy technology. We don't have that. We have, it depends. We'll do, a lot of times it'll just be VFX where they'll insert something like I just had an episode air actually Tuesday night for The Flash. And there was a monster, a kaiju, I believe is what they call it. That was, you don't do green screen. You just sort of, it's going to go there plus some buildings. Wow. But if someone's going to be in front of something, then sometimes you'll do a green screen piece. But again, like I don't try to understand. It's evolving so fast. Yeah. I'll just go to the VFX supervisor and be like, and my smart thing. And also I'll say, can would a piece of green screen help or not, and then we just kind of collaborate. But those guys are gold.
They're like magicians.
They are magicians. And even like on All American, we're looking at we don't have people in the stands, but we're using it. We're creating people in the stands, and that's a lot of money. And so we try to stay off it, but the guy is with me. And I remember like the other night I was shooting, this is about a couple weeks ago. And he's like, do you just still need me? And I said, I wouldn't mind just sticking around because again, I appreciate their expertise. There was no problem. And so just one of those things that you come off something like we did a tilt down off the stands. And what his point was, which I wouldn't have thought of, is once the camera's in motion, everything blurs a little bit anyway. Your eye line blurs when things are moving. Yeah. So as long as you cut in motion on the tilt down, it's a lot less expensive. They worry about pushing in on a locked off shot on a close up. Then you're going to see that it's not real people, or it becomes a money thing. You can make them look realistic, but it's a lot more money.
Or you can use the Hitchcock effect where things kind of are designed.
Yeah, exactly.
You zoom in and it stays.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, that's so cool. Okay, so I'm going to have to end the interview, unfortunately, but I do want to find out what your aspirations are, because people think you get to a place like where you are and you're like, I'm good, this is how everything is. No, you've got aspirations where you want to go from here, and I'd like to hear just a little bit about what shows you want to work on, if you want to direct films, if you want to act, whatever you want to do, if you want to do stand-up comedy.
That's hilarious. No, I'll tell you what, one of the scariest jobs I can think of is stand-up comedy. So cheers to you.
I'll get you out there.
Oh man, I do love humor. I would love to do some humor. I did a Flash episode, their third season, and it had humor in it, and it did pretty well, and I really had fun. It was so fun to riff on the humor, because you don't riff as much in drama. Yeah. Like you do with humor. Yeah. But it's been my experience. But anyway, so I'd love to do something with some humorous elements. I would love to do a feature, just because we were talking about it. Kevin Bacon is in a feature. It's been out for a while, but I recently watched it over the pandemic. Cop Car.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
So good. It's so good. Really? It's got some little kids in it. Yeah. Kevin's in it, and it's I like stories that are sort of contained, you know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
I would love to do, like, Mandalorian would be great, they're bringing in like feature directors, Yeah. I'm very, one thing I tell people is be happy with where you are and then always aspire. So like when I was coming up as an AD, as a trainee, I was happy. I was thrilled that I get to put Brent Spiner in makeup. Yeah. I was so happy, right. And then he went, it was like so nice. And so every step of the way, I was happy being a good second, and I was happy being a first. And literally someone asked me if I would come do their series, if I would direct an episode, that would be their reward to me if I did their series. And I had sort of forgotten about it. And that made me talk to the people at the closer, but enjoy the route. But I would love to do a feature, Joel. I would love to do some comedy. Mm-hmm. I know you're married and you talk about your wife, and I love that. I'm single, and this isn't a pitch.
She says hi, by the way.
Tell her I said hi.
Okay, yeah.
Tell her I said hi. Well, but I feel like that's what's missing, and I feel like I want to have a family. I have great friends, and my mom and dad are amazing. And so I do want to settle down at some point, because I think that's important. Mm-hmm. And life circles art, and I think it's just good to be a team. Yeah. You know what I mean? Fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right. Thanks so much for being so gracious and being on the show.
This has been a blast.
I learned so much
Good.
during this. And, as actors, it's just this kind of stuff is so helpful for us, because when we come on the set, we kind of understand what's going on. We're like, oh, okay, that's the second. He's going to be handling the extras, and this person over there is going to be doing this, and they're going to be doing the scheduling. That is such important information for us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for that. And also for just your kind nature, and this advice that, well, it wasn't advice, basically just by your example of knowing people's names, and this thing that you said about being happy. It's like, be happy with where you are. Don't be, you can be happy but not satisfied. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger always said, stay hungry.
That's right.
I always thought, does that mean that we're supposed to not eat? No, but it's like always be looking for the next thing, but be happy where you are as well, because this is life. It's happening right now.
Well, you're the same, Joel. Your show is a very positive energy show. I love it. And I was very excited to get the opportunity to be on it.
Right.
And the last thing I just want to mention, just for actors,
yeah,
I mean, anybody, it's okay to ask questions. You know, people ask me sometimes, like, if you're in an audition, should I not ask a question? I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you do. And when you're on set, it's absolutely okay to, like, is that my mark? Or, you know, don't feel that you can't ask questions, especially when they're starting out. It's okay. You know, in the second, you know, or anybody will help.
Yeah,
you know?
It's better to ask the question than it is to pretend like you know the answer. And then they're like, why didn't he hit his mark? Or
just like me on Supergirl.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know I want to have her fly through this wall. Yeah. I'm not sure how to do it.
That's so cool. That's great. All right. So thanks a lot. And
thank you.
You're welcome on this show anytime if you want to come in and do your stand-up comedy, whatever it is.
Oh, my God.
All right.
That's really kind. Thanks a lot. Great to do this with you. Thank you.
We'll see you
soon. Thanks for having me.
Well, wasn't that fun? That was super fun, super informative. I really appreciate David for being on the show. Just all kinds of information. This is one of those episodes where you might want to rewatch it even, or like if you're about to go on a set, you might want to check that out as well. If you can subscribe, you click on the little bird if you're on YouTube. There's a little bird in the corner. I don't know. There. Please subscribe. It's great to have everybody here. We had a really good audience today. So thanks everybody for showing up for this thing, because it means a lot to me. And also pass it around, because it's around forever. And now if you get that around today to Facebook and to YouTube and all that, we'll all be the better for it, right? I feel like having David on this show is like just a win-win for everybody. So thanks, David. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being in the chat room too to answer questions, because that is like gold. Everybody's chiming in here. It's dance time, so I'm gonna dance. I got a fantastic performer here from Dublin, and her name is Laura Ciello. She's singing one of my. I have a lot of favorites. Todd Lee in the show always says I've redefined the word favorite, but Joni Mitchell, I mean, come on, she's singing a Joni Mitchell song, so this is going to be super cool. So here's a dance break. Dance them if you got them. So here she is. I'm going to try not to talk throughout this thing.
It's coming on Christmas, they're cutting down trees, they're putting up reindeer, singing songs of joy and peace. How I wish I had a river I could escape away on. Well, it don't snow here, it stays pretty green. I'm gonna make a lot of money, I'm gonna quit this crazy scene. Oh, I wish I had a river I could escape away on. I wish I had a river so long.
Yes, Ganelle, you're supposed to dance to this. I'm dancing. It's slow. It's beautiful.
I wish I had a river I could skate away on.
Yeah, thanks, Laura, for letting us play this. Beautiful voice.
so naughty, he made me weak and lightning. So I wish I had a river I could escape.
Yeah, she's in Dublin. She's a Dublin-based performer. It's one of the great things about this show. You find all kinds of great performers.
Now I've gone and lost the best baby I ever had.
Yeah, great job, David. Haha, turkey ball. We had a turkey ball too.
I wish I had a river so long I would teach my feet to fly. And I wish
So cool.
I had a river I could skate away on.
She did. She changed it up a bit. If you're going to cover a song, you make it your own, right?
So it's coming on Christmas and they're cutting down trees. They're putting up reindeer, singing songs of joy and peace. How I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. I wish I had a river.
All right, thanks everybody. On Monday, we're going to be doing some
Skate
sound bath.
away on.
We're going to get into a whole new week, see what it provides. Ben McKnight, thanks for being here with all your technical questions. He's my agent. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. Yeah, I would love to work on one of his shows, of course. All right, we'll see you all next week.